Hello, welcome to day 2 of our 30 days with Python. And of course, what we are going to be doing today is setting up a Python environment. And once we're done with that, we're going to be writing some instruction to the machine. And hopefully, the machine will be able to give us the answers that we expect. Now, for us to work with Python, really, we need an interpreter. Normally, your system is not aware of Python, like is not aware of Python, except for Mac OS, those that use Mac OS. So they have pre-built Python that comes with the system. Normally, it comes with version 2. But in our case, let's download the latest Python. And for you to do that, either on Windows or on Mac OS, anyone, just go to your Google, go to your browser and just type download Python. I just have download there. Let's add Python to it. So once I have my download Python, the first thing you will see is their documentation. So you can just click the link. And once the link is loaded, depending on the kind of network speed that you have, as you can see, mine is running a bit slow, so I have to wait for it. So once it's done loading, really, we just have to download the way you would download a normal file. And once you download, then you can install. Okay, so there are things to note. Now, there are several versions that you can use, right? You can go with the latest or go with any version at all. We're going to be talking about version as we move forward, but just one thing you need to know right now is that you need a Python on your system. So we can go ahead and just download. Now, go ahead, click the download button. If you're a Windows user, click on the operating system. I think by default, it should project your operating system. So if you're a Mac user and you visit with your Mac device, it should give you the default Mac description. And if you're a Windows user, the same thing. You should also say Windows here. But if that doesn't happen, of course, you can choose your operating system as you need. So just go ahead, download. And once you download, of course, you have the file on your system. Double click on it and follow the instruction of installation. Now, I'm not going to be going through that because I have Python installed on my system. Like I said, if you have any issue at all installing Python on your system, you can either Google or just throw us questions on the comment section. And of course, we'll deal with it together with you. But let's say you are, one thing you can do is you can just go ahead, pause this video and try to do something, install it, then come back and let's dive into what we have to do. So I'm going to take it that you're done downloading your Python and you want to run it. If you're a Windows user, go to your Windows Start menu and search for IDLE. And if you're a Mac user, of course, go to your Spotlight and search for IDLE. Now, you can see that mine is popping up. I'll just go ahead and click on it so that I can load my IDLE. Now, perfect. I have my IDLE open right here. You should have yours too as well. Now, there are certain things to understand about the IDLE. You can customize it. If you go to your file, I think go to the IDLE preference. From the preference, you can change color, change so many things, right? You can see that my font is a bit bolder. The essence is so that you can see it properly. You can increase your font size. This is your font size. You can increase it. Now, this display varies. It depends on the operating system you're using. Yours might not look like mine, but the truth is they work the same way. So now we have Python running. This is a Python shell, right? And we are currently I'm using Python 3.7. And if you look at this, the latest version really is 3.10.2, which means your own version is actually higher than mine. So congratulations to you. But true, I'll just maintain my version because it does what I want it to do. And at any point, I can install another version, right? So first, for us to even know whether Python is working, how about we ask it to print hello world? like hello, which is, let's ask you to print something. You can actually tell Python, please print something for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and write my print function and say, Python, please print for me. Now, don't mind all of this and I'm typing. I am going to explain to you. So I just say, hello, world. And if I enter, and of course, it gives me the results. This is really, really cool, right? Because one thing you need to understand is you're calling a print function. The print function, now function really, which we're going to explain later. Function can be block of codes that perform a particular task, right? And the truth is, if you are to understand the code under the hood that is doing this print for you, it is not just one line of code, right? But they are predefined function that makes life easier for you. So let's say you want to print something to the user by just calling the print and open and close brackets, then wrap your whatever in a string. Of course, like I said, we are going to be talking about all of this later. But just know that what we are using to do this is what we call print function. Now, these are predefined function, which means it came with Python. We call them inbuilt function. You can also create your own function. We're going to be looking at all of that as well. But just know that in real sense, Python comes with some inbuilt functions that makes life so easy for you. Now, the truth is there are several things you can do with the print function, but oftentimes we use the print function to print certain information on the page, right? Okay, so right now, why not just try and go ahead to print your own statement? I think I would really advise that you print something like Python, it's awesome. Just go ahead and print yours and see what it looks like. Let's see if Python will really go ahead and print what you intended. Okay, so let's say right now you understand how the print function works. How about we talk about comments, right? Because if you look at our agenda, after the print function, the next thing to talk about is the comments. What is comment in programming? Now, let me just give you just a simple illustration. If I go ahead and write something and I try to make it execute, there's a throwback error. Python is trying to tell me that it doesn't understand what this Jaska means. Like, it is not defined, right? So everything you write, Python tries to interpret it. And if it doesn't make sense, it throws an error and says, hey, this doesn't make sense. But how about for some reason you want to write some comments, like you want to write some things and you want Python to ignore it, right? Those are things we call comments. Now, if I want to write this same Jaska as a comment, I can just go ahead and use our comment symbol, which is a character of hash sign, right? And I just type the word Jaska again. If I enter, there's no error because you've strictly told Python that, hey, ignore this line. I am aware that it doesn't make sense to you, but it makes sense to me. So go ahead and ignore it. And Python is going to do just that, right? So in other words, imagine I want to write some comments, some things I want to remember later. Maybe I told you that you should write Python is awesome. Okay, so maybe I can just go ahead and write a comment. Hey, print Python is awesome. Awesome. You can see, cool. Now, if I run it, Python doesn't do anything because it just go ahead and ignore the line. But how about I copy the same line, right, without the hash symbol? You can already see that Python is trying to even format the color based on what he understands. You can see syntax error. It doesn't understand this thing, right? So understand that comment really is what helps us to write some line of code and make Python ignore them, right? So now that you have an idea of what comment does whenever we write our code, what about we also look at more things that we have to do? Now let's look at formatting prints. Okay, so there are several ways we can format our prints. Let's say we want to write new lines and stuff like that. But the truth is, all the things we're writing right now is on the shell. In other words, it's just there. If we close this shell, it's gone for life. How about we create a file? So I'm just going to come to my file and create a new file. So I can just say new file. So I can save it, just Ctrl S, of course. You can give it a name. You can see. So I'm just going to call it my script. My script .py. You can see I am using .py. So whatever you're writing in Python, it ends with an extension .py, right? Just like the way you have your .jpeg, what's the extension for Microsoft Word again? Docs or something like that. Anyways, so whenever you see anything .py, it means it's a Python file. Now that you have an idea of how to save your Python file, let's just go ahead and save. But before I save, one thing you need to note is always save your file somewhere that it will be easier for you to locate. Oftentimes you see programmers save their file on their desktop. But meanwhile, don't just save it on desktop, create a file. So if you check my desktop, you see a Python folder. I'll just go ahead and put it in. Maybe I don't even want to save it there. Let's see. I think I have my projects folder. I should have a file called my projects. Okay, yeah, so I have tutorials. Yeah, I'm just going to save it here. So let's say I just go ahead and save it. Now we have a Python file. The cool thing about this file right now is that we can always save it and I can come back and open it again. So if I write the same print function, and let's say we have our hello Python, and I close it. Now, if I save it, if I want to run it, come to File, you can see File at the top. No, I think it has to be under Run. Now you can see Run. The shortcut key is F5, I think. Is it F5 or F6? Just run it. And once you run it, you can see that Python is printing. This is your file. And if you look at the file roots, it's saved in No Olatoye under desktop tutorial folder. Then you have the file itself. This is really very cool. So now that we have an idea that our file are savable, let me just try to minimize this a bit. Then let's try to do more of formatting, right? Let's say we want to format our screen. In fact, there are things we can even do because now we have file, right? Remember I was talking about comment the other time, right? So let's say we have, so one thing to understand in programming is you can use either double quotes or single quotes. So I can use one, or double quote. One thing you need to note is that if you start with single quotes, you need to end with single quotes. If you start with double quotes, you need to end with double quotes. And we're going to be playing around some of those things. Now, so if I have my comments, so I say the last time I said that print, I love Python, or print Python is awesome, whichever way. Now, if I save and I try to run, I think that was F5. I'm just going to run F5. So it's telling me to save. I say, okay, you're just going to go ahead and do the magic for us. And you can see now it printed it. It printed it and it didn't print our comments. There was no error, right? This is really cool. But one thing we can also know is that it is possible for us to have multiple lines of comments. In other words, so let's say, for instance, I copied this, print I love Python, and I put another line. I put another line. Let's make it like 4. yeah, so if I save and I try to run it, maybe F5, is already even telling me that something is wrong. Like something is wrong. Now, for us to have multiple line comments, you need to have your 3 quotes. Like I said, it can either be double quote or single quotes. Now, if I want to use double quote, I have to have this 3 times and have this 3 times. Now, if I save and I run my F5, you can see it runs and nothing gets to happen, right? That's the advantage of you saving your file somewhere, because you can really properly format some of those things. Now, let's talk about printing or formatting our print function. In some cases, so let's say, for instance, we have another print function. In the print function, I just have, okay, so let's just have our value. But in this time around, let's write a sentence. And so the sentence, let's still have, in fact, let's just have our hello world, hello world, again, hello world 2. Now, if we run it, F5, you can see we have our hello world 2. How about we want it to go 2 lines, right? So one thing we can do, we can use the backward slash and say n. Let's say the magic. So this is a way of saying, please do me a new line. It's funny though, but that's what it does. Let's run our F5. I'm going to save it. And let's see. So you can see you have your 2 lines. Really, that's awesome. How about we write another string? Let's write something longer. In fact, I'm just going to copy this. Let's copy your code and repeat. So I'm just going to write, let's write our Python is awesome here. So if I just go ahead and say Python is awesome. Now, if we save this, we already know that this is going to give us a 1 line. How about we want to break this into 3? So remember, you can just have your backward slash n, then you come here again and you have your backward slash n. So this should give us 3 lines. And if we run our F5, we should see 3 lines. Python is awesome. Perfect. Now, what are the things we've looked at? We've looked at how to install Python on our machine. And also, we've tried to use the print function, which is an inbuilt function to print to the machine. And we've learned what comments is. In other words, how to make sure that the machine doesn't read a particular line of code, which can be achieved with our hash sign. Then we've also learned how to format our print function. So in some cases, you might want your letters to be broken down into several segments. So the backward slash and the n gives you that new line experience. And that's how we wrap it up for today. Really, it has been an interesting topic, right? Try as much as you can to do more things from your end. And if you have questions, please post your questions in the comment section. Let's talk about it and ask any question at any time, right? Tomorrow, which is going to be day 3, we're going to be talking about data type. We're going to be looking at strings and other data type, and we're going to practice some more. If you like this tutorial, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more tutorial and follow us on all our social media handles. Until tomorrow, I'll see you in the next one.